Well, are you going to be going through the program?
Yes.
They're getting it.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, so I think what we really need to start with is how long have you been dieting?
Since I was 26 and I'm 34.
So it's been
8 years.
8 years of dieting, and it looks like you really didn't have an issue prior to starting to work, sitting at a desk, and chances are your eating may have just kind of changed at that point too, especially if you were bored or.
I think my metabolism just slowed down because I was always normal sized until I was 26.
Did that video that you watched make any sense as far as like the real issue?
It made complete sense.
Okay, so your metabolism actually isn't the problem.
Okay.
It's hormones.
Hormones, yes.
Now
right.
your activity level
also
goes down, so which means that if you have too much leptin with the less activity you get, the more likely it is that you'll have too much leptin.
True.
Does that make sense? Because your fuel demand is going to be less, which means your need for leptin is less. So if you so you're right, activity level does, but it's not a matter of, it's lack of activity is just such a small piece of pie when it comes to the hormonal cause of weight gain, because it's caused from hormones. You with me?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Does that have a lot to do with being pregnant too and just having birth?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Pregnancy puts you in a very kind of magnified hormonal state. So your need for food is less hormonally. It's higher nutritionally, but less hormonally. And hormones are what cause the fat gain. So if you need less food to stimulate hormones and you continue to eat the same amount of food, you're going to have too many hormones. So anyways, but the real thing here that we need to go over is hunger. How often do you eat when you're hungry? And do you know what hunger feels like?
I know what hunger feels like. I've been kind of eating what I want, which hasn't been good until like a week before Thanksgiving. And then I started eating what I call well again. And then I've lost about 20 pounds since then. So that's been good. And I've been exercising since then. But I still have cravings and kind of binge, not like, let's say, diagnostically binge,
Sure.
but
You let loose. You let
yeah, have 3 donuts or something.
So here's my question: when you're eating well,
yeah.
do you feel restricted? Like you're having to restrict, and the food choice is different, and it may not be exactly what you actually want, but you're not allowing yourself. So it's almost like being grounded a little bit from food.
Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is.
Well, based on just the words you're using, that's the sense I'm getting.
Yeah.
That, and then.
I mean, I would like to eat how I'd like to eat.
Well, and you would like to eat a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the real conversation is, why have you defined what's good with food in terms of huge quantity?
Yeah.
Especially when you're not hungry, like what are you trying to fulfill? Why has food become your best friend, your relationship, your hobby, the thing you think about? We really have to get to the source of that desire, because would you not agree, if you don't really get to that desire, you're going to be going back and forth between excessive eating and excessive dieting and excessive eating and excessive dieting. Mm-hmm. And the other part of this is why haven't you yet maybe identified with the fact that it's the desire to excessively eat that is the problem, not the physical outcome of fat?
Yeah, probably true. And if you see, I have lost and gained. This would be my 3rd time if I do lose.
And it's a significant amount of weight.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're losing and gaining 10 pounds.
No, it's like 40 or 50.
40 or 50. So you kind of are almost on this mega pendulum swing between restriction. I always say you're grounding yourself from food. You're locking yourself away because you feel like you need the control. However, the only reason why you're probably doing that is because you think your body's too fat and you want to lose the weight. So you're willing to constrict for that reason only.
Instead of?
Because you want to.
Okay.
So if you wanted to eat less, like you've really got to where food wasn't that for you, what do you think would happen to your diet disordered swing?
It would stop swinging.
You got it. And how would that feel?
That would be wonderful.
Free?
Yeah.
Like you're in a jail cell and you can't get out, but you keep on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really want
like
that.
The freedom. Do you remember that as a child?
Yes.
Have you ever thought about what it would be like to just, number one, not feel guilty about the food you're eating, not feel shame when you don't perfectly follow a diet, and then to have this incredible, insatiable mental appetite, because it's mental, because you're not hungry, that's for sure, and to compensate for feeling like you've been deprived emotionally.
Yes.
It's insanity, isn't it?
It is.
I know. So my question is, why, first off, how much of your behavior is because you're judging yourself? You've defined yourself by the way you look, so you feel shame about the way you look.
True.
When did that begin for you? Where you started kind of hiding your personality because you felt like your body was defining it?
My husband likes me to look skinny.
So does he make comments a lot?
He's not, mean or anything, but I guess I just know that he would like me to look skinnier.
So it's more.
So he must say something, but he doesn't say anything mean.
No, so nothing like. But he's supportive of all of your dieting.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And exercising.
Well, and absolutely, and that's not a real. That's not an aggressive, mean, abusive thing. So how much of it is really just you judging yourself? Because I think that's really a huge part of why people binge eat and diet, because they constantly have judgment towards how they've identified themselves. The problem is that you may think that your value as a person and as a soul is defined by your body, and which is why people are so obsessed about the scale while they're dieting, because first off, they're desperate to find some sense of self-worth, so they're holding very tightly to the way they look in their body and their weight. But on the other side, they're desperate for a relationship that is unconditional, meaning not judgmental, that actually is there anytime you need it and can fulfill your emotions as deep as you need them to be filled. And no other person can necessarily do that, but guess what can? An action, an addiction. Yours just happens to be food. So you're relying heavily on food to support you emotionally, but the damage is that your body manifests it in obesity, which then you're judging. So it's like you're digging an emotional grave on two sides.
Yeah, and I suppose really, honestly, what it really is that, I used to, or still am, or whatever. I used to be an alcoholic, and I used to smoke cigarettes, and I don't do that, either of those anymore.
Okay, so this
is kind of my new thing, over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
So when you look at and
I never used to have a problem with it before. I just ate what I wanted until I was full, I suppose.
You're not alone. You understand that. Did you go to rehab?
Yeah.
Did you notice that they really wanted you to eat and there was food always around and they almost pressed food?
Yeah.
They actually do that knowing they're shifting your addiction to something else. But when I absolutely, and I've heard this enough, that they would much rather you have an affection and relationship with food than alcohol, because alcohol changes the way you're thinking and can be so abusive. However, now you have a new addiction, so you've never really gotten to the root cause of why you're leaning so hard on something outside of yourself emotionally, and then you define yourself by it. So are you truly an addict, really, or an alcoholic, or are you someone that has really, really poor sense of self-worth? And what you do is you replace it with something else, an action, an object, a person, or a thing, you know. The action being food, the thing being, or the action eating, the thing being food. You know, when do you let it all go and expose the reality of what's real for you? Who are you really? What are you emotionally capable of if you do something alone?
I thought I was coming here for diet medication.
Well, you understand that.
So true, though.
It is, because I'm not going to enable you. I know what the problem is. And you just blame
this book might be good.
You've been blaming your body this whole time for being the problem. It affects the way you feel about your self-worth. But ultimately, that's even, that's kind of in the upper layers. We got to get to the real root for you. You know what you need? You need a do-over. You need to start over. How are you feeling?
Exposed.
I want you to not judge it. I'm not judging you.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like. I am a survivor. You have to understand. I want you to look at me. I totally know what it's like. Because that's how I know how to peel this apart for you.
Okay.
Because I've been there.
Okay.
So all I'm doing is saying, here, I want you to see this from the outside. Because when you're in it, it feels like a grave. And it's so deep and dark, and you can't even see out, and you kind of lose hope. And I'm trying to help you right now, because I know there's an out, but nothing else in the world, not me, not this diet, not this country, not your clothes, not the way you look, can do it for you. The only way, I know you kind of innately know that, don't you? When I was really, really ill psychologically and suicidal, I mean, not just I'm telling everybody I'm suicidal. This was when I would not. It's to the point where you don't tell anybody anymore, because it's so right there. It's the next day. It's the moment. You're living minute to minute, wondering if you can survive. I remember knowing there was no one else that could help me, and no medication would do anything to pull me out of it, because I knew it wasn't a physical problem. And each time I went to a therapist, I could just tell by the way they were talking that they didn't quite know where I was at. And there's no way without them being there that they could help me. And I just want you to know, I know where you're at. I've been there, and I can help you. But this requires that you be very submissive, really let yourself kind of let go, and it feels like you're going to die. No, it's real. It's like real death, and it's, in my mind, it's the emotional death of what you thought that you know isn't correct, and the willingness to find something different. And it requires that there's no control involved. Weighing yourself, that's one way of controlling. Because you need something to help you eat less. So you're going to control the environment, and by weighing yourself, it controls everything.
Yeah.
And on the other side, when you eat excessively, that's a form of control too. You want to know how? Because there's a feeling that you don't like, and you're trying to control it. So you think it's like, oh, I need freedom. No, you're actually trying to control something. And it's a feeling of vulnerability, fear, anxiety. And for me, and as many people I've worked with that have the same kind of issue, it comes from feeling rejection, shame, and that your worth is nothing.
That's very true. You hit the nail on the head.
So I want you to focus on something with me for a little bit, okay? There's something that's so unique to you, You make me cry. Because I can feel it. You are very special. And you are not defined by your body. You are not defined by your husband, your parents, and anybody else in this world. And if you can find that and find value, I'm so sorry, but this is so raw. If you can find value to who you are that is not defined by anything, that is the beginning of what I call self-worth and self-esteem. And that is where the source of your problem is. You need to find value with nothing. Can I give you a little bit of my story?
Sure.
So when I was in the midst of suicide, I remember my definition of who I was, because I couldn't find anything about myself that was real. So everything about me had to be defined from an outside source. I was brought up to be kind of a very religious person.
Sure.
Okay, almost an extremist. A lot of fear, a lot of rules, and I felt that if I wasn't that religion, my family would reject me. Okay, I was wrong, but that's what it felt like. Okay.
Sure.
And I'm number 9 of 10 children, so I was also defined by my siblings. I wanted them to like me. I wanted them to accept me in their circles. And anyways, when I went to college, because there was no one to define me, no one to tell me what to do, what to wear, how to act, what to say, I was left to do it on my own. And I didn't know how, because I'd constantly been told who I should be and what I should wear and how I should talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was all of a sudden at the mercy of everybody around me, because I wanted them to love and accept me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I had learned growing up was to acclimate and accept what others do so they'll like you. So it was always conditional.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to college, not everybody really cares about you.
Nobody to acclimate to.
Well, you're acclimating to craziness.
Yeah.
And I got myself into a position where, and you got to understand, and when you kind of have the religious idea that if you have sex, you're going to go to hell. Okay, so when you're in college, you're being pursued on so many levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be rejected, and I don't want to cause chaos.
Mm-hmm. So
if someone wants to have sex with me, and I really don't want to, because I'm so afraid, I've never done it before, but I don't want to, I want them to like me so bad.
cause waves.
Don't want to cause waves. So you're in a position where, what do? Because if you say no, they may not like you. So you end up having sex, this is me, and feeling so traumatized by the fact that, number one, you're going to hell, your family's going to reject you, you don't want to have sex, but you don't want this person to reject you either. It was like rape. Okay?
Gosh.
But it happened on so many occasions because I didn't know what to do can you imagine the guilt, the shame? How do you feel when you mess up a diet?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure worse.
It's actually exactly the same.
Really?
Yes, it's the same perspective. I suck. No one will like me. Oh, screw it. I might as well eat everything on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am going, screw it. If I'm going to hell, I might as well drink. I might as well do, massive, massive kind of pendulum swing from one extreme to the other, and then living a double life. So, long story short, I got to the point where I didn't want anybody else to validate me anymore because it was too vulnerable. I couldn't handle acclimating to another person so that they'd like me.
Sure.
Okay, because I've been traumatized a few times.
Yeah.
So I knew I didn't want to go back to that religion because it was too much. I didn't want to go back to my parents' control because that was too much, and I didn't want to go. So you know what I did? I decided that I was miserable. I was depressed and miserable. So I decided, you know what, maybe I need to lose 10 pounds. I'll feel better if I actually look better, right? So I started to diet, and you know what I'd do? I'd have an energy bar. I'd have 2 a day. And you can imagine it's almost like I created a new religion out of my body. So I created these rules and rigidity with my body. Okay, I'm going to have this weight. I'm going to have this size waist. This is how much energy I'm going to eat in a day, and I'm going to have to burn it. So that I'm going to make sure that when I burn the calories and I eat the calories, it's going to end up at 0, right? Anyway, so that became my new religion. And guess what happened if I didn't do it perfectly? I mean, imagine, with this same type of extremist kind of concept before, the incredible amount of fear, anxiety, shame. So then I would binge. And a binge,
Really?
yeah. I mean, if you screw up, you might as well screw up all the way, right? So I emotionalized my diet. As if I didn't do it right, my value is crap, it's nothing. And then you feel like you're going to be rejected. It's the same kind of pain emotion cycle. So it got so bad that I would have the incredible amount of pain, trauma, anxiety 8 times a day. Every time I ate, I'd have these cycles. Insanity. Insanity. Well, when you're an alcoholic, what is it like? Pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's the same thing. You're just trying to hold on to some form of rigidity and extremism, and the pendulum swing is control on either side. How I described it. That's what you're doing with food in your body. So anyways, I get to the point where I'm done with life. I was 19 and done with life because it was so miserable. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who I was. I knew I didn't want to be this, that, and this anymore. And I couldn't imagine life without the incredible restraint around my body. Who was I if I was, and all of it was to avoid being fat, because fat was hell, right?
So you decided you could control that?
Yeah, well that was my heaven. Heaven was my value, almost 100% of my value as a soul was defined by my body. So if I gained fat, who was I? Right? Do you see how it went from one extreme to the next? Kind of like you went from alcohol to food. It's the same thing. I went to my body. That was my addiction. I call it body worth.
Sure.
My worth is defined by my body. And I remember laying on the floor and weeping because I had gotten to the bottom, where I was in the grave and there was no way out except for killing myself. And it seemed like a great option because my life was so miserable. And anyhow, I remember laying there thinking, what would it be like to just start life over? What would I be if I wasn't that? I was so desperate to find it. I think I had an out-of-body experience at that time, as much as that sounds weird, and all of you can think I'm weird, but I remember thinking, if death to me is gaining fat, I might as well try it first before I kill myself. So I remember in my mind, as I'm laying limp on the ground, and there's so many parts of this I'm not going into right now, but I remember laying on the ground, so desperate for who I was and didn't know what I even felt like, that I would just fantasize about being a child again. And I thought, oh, who is that person? I want to be that 4-year-old playing outside. And so I thought, okay, well, if the worst thing in the world right now is letting go of control and accepting the outcome of obesity, I might as well try that first. And I remember in my mind visualizing pulling my soul out of my body, thinking, what is the consistency that I feel in my soul that has not changed from when I was 1, 2, 3. My first memory is the same. It feels the same. Nothing has changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I pull that source, that feeling, and put it in a body that's morbidly obese, and I remember this person was on a park bench, and they were probably 500 or 600 pounds, right? And I put that feeling I had inside that body. And you want to know what happened? I felt nothing. There was no difference. My soul in my body that I was mutilating through exercise and severe fuel restriction felt no different in the body that was huge. And I can't tell you what happened at that point, but it was like this incredible amount of, it was an awakening moment. It was kind of a realization that I am not my body. I have this incredible soul that isn't defined by it wouldn't change if I was 600 pounds or 140 pounds. It doesn't change. Well, I want you to think about it. Do you feel different? Does that source of who you are feel different today in the body you have than it did when you didn't have that? Now, don't wrap it around your perception of who you are, because you're judging that perception and you've emotionalized it. But when you really get to the source of your soul, has that really changed?
Interesting. I'll have to think about that.
Well, you need to identify with it. You have to. It actually takes some real quiet space and time to think about the source of your soul. You have children, and you will feel them. You don't need to see their body. You know what I mean?
True.
There's something unique about them, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. I know. That's how I can connect with you. I'm not judging you, because your body is nowhere close to even expressing the magnitude of how amazing your soul is. But yet you think that you're defined by that. You're not. Don't believe it. Who are you? That's really what this comes down to. If you were to start over today with the same husband, the same beautiful children that you have, and the same life, if you were to start it over today, what would be different? Because that's ultimately what we're going to get to. And what we're going to do is we're going to take away your crutch. You've been sucking on a pacifier, and that pacifier you've been defined by. Could you imagine what it would be like today if you never thought about food or your weight? Could you imagine how liberating that's going to be? I want you to really think about that, because that is what you need to be motivated by. Not a stupid number on a scale.
That would be really nice. Because the weight could come back, but
who gives
that
it?
would be nice if, yeah.
Honestly, if you stayed in the same exact body today and found that freedom, that emotional freedom, and the weight of all of that crap that isn't real and it's not true, could you imagine what you've got? I mean, think about yourself as a mom. Don't you want your children to have that? Don't you want them to know the real you? Who is that? Don't let your past define you. You know, if I was defined by those moments of raw rape, a rape victim, I would still be depressed. I wouldn't be here, actually. I would have committed suicide, because I would have felt like that defined my value, and there was no life outside of that, because there's no going back, right? And I'll tell you this, when I look back, I have so much compassion for those boys, because all they were doing is seeking some level of self-worth from me, and it had nothing to do with me and my soul. It had to do with my body. It's like I understand what they were doing. I really do, and it makes sense to me based on the view that they had. And it's kind of sad, because they don't understand their true value either. I know. And I look at my mom and dad, who I love and adore. They did such an incredible job raising me and my siblings. They are amazing people, but they're not defined by my past. I love them so much, and and they did the best they could with what they knew. And me, I have 3 kids. I'm doing the best I can with what I know. So how can I be defined by my past? You know, I can't even start. You don't know the whole story, but really this is about you finding what is authentic. Who are you? And if I want you to think about your babies, and when they grow up, if they have an extra 50 pounds of fat, would you think poorly about them? Wouldn't you just love them to death?
Mm-hmm.
You need to do that for yourself first for that to happen. You got to stop putting yourself on, you're comparing your soul to something very superficial. Because your soul is unique, it will never be superficial. So you'll always have lack of self-worth if that's how you're defining yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel?
Emotional.
Has this changed the way you're seeing things a little bit?
Yeah, a lot. A lot more than I thought.
So how does it feel to let go of food?
Goal.
A real goal.
Yeah.
A real goal that actually is getting to the foundation of where things went wrong somewhere, but you don't have to keep that going. You can just start from the beginning. Yeah. And you don't have to commit suicide to do it. That's the great news that I'm coming to tell you. That I basically had this incredible awakening moment. I can't tell you. There was a good 2 years after that moment. I felt like I was levitating. I could feel the energy of the trees. It was incredible. Wow. In moments of time. It didn't take time actually at all. It was a moment of this incredible pure source of energy that I can't even describe it to you.
Wow.
But it's there for you. Everybody, you just have to really let go of all of the crap that you've defined yourself by that is not real. And you get it feels vulnerable because you have to really find the truth, and the truth may conflict with what you thought.
Yeah. Vulnerable.
Oh, yes,
very,
it does. It's like, for me, I remember one of the visualizations I had at the moment, I felt like I was jumping off of a cliff to my death. I'm afraid of heights, no longer, but because I don't want to be afraid of anything anymore because of that vulnerability. But I remember visualizing myself jumping off a cliff and accepting the outcome of, even though it felt like I was going to die and there was going to be I was going to be miserably falling to my death, aware that I'm falling to my death as I'm falling. I mean, the worst case nightmare ever.
Yes.
And I remember being so submissive to that because there was no other way out.
Much easier to just control it.
Oh yeah, but that's the insanity. That's what's keeping you from really finding who you are. Mm-hmm. So the first thing, if I were to just kind of shorten this up and turn off the video camera so we can move on to some other things, you need to find who you are that is the same no matter what you weigh. It does not change, and you need to love it as if you're loving your own baby.
That seems difficult.
You just have to accept. You have to accept who you are as who you are. Mm-hmm. You, for some reason, thought that you were defined by something else, and you're not. You have to let it all go. Mm-hmm. And then if you can find this incredible sense of worth from that point forward, do you need your husband to make you feel better about yourself if you do that?
Not if I do that.
Mm-mm. So,
but I do now.
Well, I want you to hold on to this feeling I'm trying to get for you, because you need to hold on to it.
Hold on to
If you find love and acceptance for who you are, and you're innately happy and just expressive of that, do you need someone else? Do they need to change who they are? Do they need to follow some rule so that you're happy?
No.
So what happens to how you love them?
They can be who they are.
And it becomes unconditional, like you love your children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what happens then to how many people around you you're judging? Do you put them on the same, like we all have to follow this rule, so therefore if you're not this, there's fear, judgment?
No, no one has to.
So what happens to your need for food?
Goes away.
Becomes physical. Because you don't need food to stabilize you. Even when the world is moving and shifting all over, you're standing there unmovable, because there is nothing that can take that source, because you are the creator of it. You are the creator. Nothing is doing it for you. All of a sudden, what happens to the term addiction?
Goes away.
You don't know that? Yeah. So are you an alcoholic?
No.
Are you a binge eater?
No.
You just are not quite getting it yet with who you are. And it's that easy, honey.
That would be wonderful.
If we were to leave this conversation for my followers, out of this conversation, how would you like it to end?
I guess I should stay vulnerable for a while and look for my own self-worth and try to find my real soul. Look at how I felt when I was a little kid.
And go back there and start over.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.